And the movement that has been growing in terms of MAGA, there are negatives associated with it, but never, ever underestimate the fact that a significant portion of that movement is about restoring some semblance of a strong economy for working people, whether they're in trades, unions, etc. Now, you may not think you're going to get that with the GOP, but for them, they think they're going to get it with somebody like Trump. So it's understandable that when desperation sets in, people are going to be looking in a lot of different directions. With that being said, there is a very dangerous element that still exists within the GOP. Well, the one policy that I thought Trump did that was exceptionally good for American industry was axing the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which absolutely would have been passed under Hillary Clinton. So that's a big deal. Now, does that change the fact that Trump still executed or granted multinational corporations to leave the US and go to Mexico? Of course not. We're still on a path to hell. And it doesn't matter who's at the controls until we unify around this idea that the working class can become a well-oiled machine. And for those of you who are not aware of the Trans-Pacific Partnership and how much worse that is than NAFTA, please do your research on that. And that is something that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is one of 3 Democrats that voted to fast track, if you remember that. Now, with that being said, we have to address who is one of the most dangerous GOP representatives in this country right now, who is a true sociopathic narcissist who has every intention of doing whatever is necessary to grab power. And she is much more cunning than Nikki Haley. And that, of course, is Representative Elise Stefanik from New York. Here we go.
As long as I serve the American people, I will defend George Washington's vision of religious pluralism and freedom.
How dare you enact George Washington in this moment with those fucking flags behind you? The whole concept of what George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and other founding fathers had for religious freedom was that your religion was never going to supersede the state. That is the separation of church and state. And this is only getting worse. But the problem with somebody like Elise Stefanik is that she is not a true believer. She is simply a political opportunist of the highest order. She cannot win statewide election in New York for obvious reasons. But she really wants that VP slot. She wants to climb that ladder. And she feels that by marrying herself to the Israel lobby, that this is going to be her best shot. Let me tell you something. If she doesn't get the VP slot, considering how things are moving in the state of New York right now, it wouldn't shock me in the least if she gave strong consideration to running for governor against Kathy Hochul. And let me tell you, she would have a shot at winning. Now, if she became the governor of New York, pencil it in that she is going to be a favorite to be the GOP nominee for president in the not too distant future. This is how these things happen, guys. And she is banking on this idea that by becoming the most visible Israel supporter in the most Jewish populated state, that this is a path for her political ambitions. She may be right. We'll continue.
Today, this means crushing anti-Semitism at home and supplying the state of Israel with what it needs, when it needs it, without conditions to achieve total victory in the face.
So wouldn't that increase anti-Semitism by continuing to facilitate a genocide? I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. We must crush anti-Semitism that we're helping facilitate. Doesn't jive, people. You know, usually it's an American flag that is over the shoulder next to the Israeli flag. We're getting to a point now where, you know how they were waving the Ukraine flags on the House floor recently? I want to know how long it's going to take before they're waving the Israeli flags. You just go back and forth, two sides decide. But Stefanik has really made it clear it is all about political opportunism. All of it. And she wants that power. We'll continue.
Face of evil. Chance of death to America are not hollow slogans. They are a promise that what happened here on October 7th could happen in the United States.
Hamas is going to attack the United States now? That's what's going to happen? Well, let's just say for the sake of argument that Hamas had the capability of doing it. You have murdered, mass murdered, almost 20,000 children. And as I said on our last live stream, how many caliphates are being created as we speak as a result of those actions? It's easy to say these things when you're basically protected at all times. But as Jen likes to say, they will not be able to build their moats wide enough. They just won't. They're going to try, but it won't work. How they don't know that this is a political loser now, that there is a real uprising happening in this country. They can deny it all they want, but it clearly is shifting focus in another direction. And let me tell you something, guys, especially in lieu of what's happened with the Libertarian Party. And there is a reasonable chance that we're going to have Angela McArdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, on the live stream, potentially as early as next week, to discuss the fallout of what's happened with Chase Oliver becoming their nominee, and a lot of people flocking away from the Libertarian Party now, and most likely going to Trump. But I got to tell you, I really think that, as crazy as this may seem for a lot of people, Jill Stein is probably going to do a lot better this time around than I think a lot of people realize. Because at least there is somebody who is saying that this is a genocide and this has got to stop. And that's just to stop it. That's not to even suggest that we are heading in the right direction. We're not. But something's got to give. Do I think Elise Stefanik is bloodthirsty the way that other neocons and neolibs are? Maybe not. But she is a very cunning, career-minded politician. She is going to go wherever the wind blows that she thinks is going to help her. If you have watched her trajectory since she's been involved in politics, she is a chameleon of the highest order. Whatever she thinks is going to help her politically is the exact direction that she's going to go in.
Unless Hamas and its jihadist accomplices are eliminated. And it is the United States' high honor and high responsibility to support Israel's effort. I have been clear at home, and I will be clear here. There is no excuse for an American president to block aid to Israel, aid that was duly passed by the Congress. There is no excuse to ease sanctions on Iran, paying a $6 billion ransom to the world's leading state sponsor of terror, or to...
That is such bullshit, and she knows it, and she says it anyway. That was Iran's money. We withheld it, and she's still lying through her teeth. And she knows it. I know this woman is smart. This is not a ding-dong from the deep south who doesn't know their asshole from a hole in the ground. Elise Stefanik is a very sharp cookie. And those are the most dangerous people in politics, because they're not only willing to play the game for the sake of having a top flight career in politics, but they're also smart enough to know how to take power. the most influential type of power. And there is no line she won't cross. She's making that painfully clear that there is no line that she won't cross for the Israel lobby, for Wall Street, for Silicon Valley. It doesn't matter. She wants the brass ring. And I'm telling you all this now, that she's got multiple aces up her sleeve. And that is why she's saying what she's saying. President Biden withheld aid from Israel. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, even the most hardened conservative has to know that that's not true. But she says it anyway. And on top of that, she continues to perpetuate the falsehood that is Iran stole money. No, we withheld their money. It's their money, not ours. We do not control them. I know we'd like to, but that's not how this works. We'll continue.
Dither and hide while our friends fight for their lives. No excuse, full stop. That's why I'm proud to have sponsored or backed every measure to aid Israel that has come before the United States Congress.
Absolutely you have, and absolutely you will continue to do. There will be no bill that has any benefit to Israel that you will not sign. You know why? Because you're bought by the Israel lobby. Just like my congresswoman, just like the president, just like 90+% of Congress is. She's not changing, and she is enthusiastically supporting this bullshit. That is why the most depraved people typically enter politics, because they're willing to sell out their whole fucking country for their own personal ambitions. And Elise Stefanik is 1,000% that person.
Every single one. And it's why for years I have been a leading proponent and partner to President Trump in his historic support for Israeli independence and security, including moving the U.S. Embassy to its rightful place in Jerusalem.
That is actually something that has probably perpetuated more instability in the Middle East than just about anything else. And you don't hear President Biden saying, maybe we should put the embassy back in Tel Aviv, because they're all in this bullshit together. And of all the things that Trump did during his presidency, on the domestic front, clearly the tax cuts for the rich was the worst. And on the foreign front, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem was an absolute cardinal sin. And this woman is standing there celebrating it like it is a great fucking thing.
Israel is indeed a miracle, an outpost of freedom, of Western values, of civilization, a striking example of human potential, the physical embodiment of Herzl's maxim, if you will it, it is no dream. It's the same.
You have to know that she just came up with that on the set. Somebody told her to say that before she went out there. No doubt about it. My opinion.
Same founding ethos that we prize in America, the American dream.
The American dream is dead, or as George Carlin likes to say, you have to be asleep to believe it. It doesn't exist. It does for somebody like Elise Stefanik. The American dream is alive and well for people like her. She 1,000% is benefiting from this system, but she is one of a few. It is not the norm, and it never will be. But she proudly stands on ceremony, waxing poetic about, we stand proudly with Israel. This is what we do. Well, if you want to stand proudly with Israel, that's fine. But as far as I'm concerned, and I think we can all agree on this, we must make it our collective effort to ensure that the Israel lobby is registered as a foreign agent.